Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Jupiter's CROCK. My name is Matthew. Joining me tonight down there in Memphis, just a little bit late, half an hour late. Felt he had to take a shower before he jumped on. I didn't even think people in the South showered, but we've got Ronan.
My name is Ronimus Maximus.
And Spartacus is here.
I will never, ever call him that.
No, I won't either. So we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're, by the time we wrap up this recording tonight, we're halfway through season 2, which is wild. I was actually thinking about it. I was like, man, we're almost done with this season after, spoiler alert, we watched episodes 4 and 5, so we're going to record these back to back. But we're going to talk about Empty Hands. Empty Hands, episode 4 of season 2. Spartacus, take it away.
So there's kind of like mini episodes of Spartacus. There's kind of multiple story threads going on at once. I guess kind of the main one, the one that involves Spartacus is fleeing through the woods. They just left the mines, and Marcus, who I guess is Glaber's right-hand man, Marcus is leading a group of Glaber's people towards Spartacus, and Spartacus is basically just on the run throughout the entire episode. They've got Navia, they've got a handful of gladiators that definitely had names and are definitely super important in season 1, and they're just trying to make their way to Vesuvius to meet up with Agron. We also see Glaber, and Glaber is expecting Spartacus to show up. He was expecting Spartacus to be caught, but of course Spartacus was not caught. Instead, 3 of Spartacus's top men were captured and presented to Glaber, and those top men are Crixus and...
My man.
It's Crixus and Raskos and
some other guy who is
Red
totally
Shirt. Red Shirt,
100%.
who is definitely there. Definitely not just there so that named characters get spared with what happens in this episode.
I can't
Red
believe
Shirt,
that
course,
you would dare imply that kind of thing would happen in this show, Steve.
Yes, Red Shirt, very, very important to the rest of the Spartacus series. What am I doing in this fucking hand of poker? Hold.
I'm going to win this
accidentally
hand,
folded
guys.
mine.
I'm just letting you know I'm going to win this hand.
That's good.
I didn't mean to fold it, but at the same time, I'm okay with it now.
Anyway, so Glaber is unhappy that Spartacus hasn't been captured, and he starts to kind of turn on Asher. Or does that happen? Does the turning of Asher happen this episode or next episode? When we watch these back to back, it's hard to tell. He's not happy with Asher, but Marcus and his men are still out hunting. We see Ilythia's dad, and I've never. What's Ilythia's dad's name? It's like
Ilythia's dad.
Oh, yeah.
Alba something.
I forget.
I just want to call him Ilythia's dad. Ilythia's dad shows up with Verinius, and they're shitting on Glaber because last episode Glaber's men were supposed to show up in the arena and make a big spectacle of themselves, and of course Glaber didn't go through with it, and so now here are these 2 people to shit on them. And so then comes Ilythia, and Ilythia still has the hots for Verinius, lucky him. And Ilythia says, hey, you know what? It's been a minute since we had an orgy. How about we have an orgy in honor of you, Verinius? And so Glaber is not happy.
Who hasn't said that to themselves? When I haven't had an orgy in a while.
Yes.
The pleasures
I
of
guess
the House
I
of
have.
Batiatus.
Yeah, the pleasures of the House of Batiatus are back in this episode. So there is an orgy that's meant to be in honor of Verinius, and this is supposed to smooth over the hurt feelings between Glaber and Verinius, but really it's just because Ilythia wants Verinius now. Back in the Spartacus plot thread, the nameless gladiators are dying. I think we get to the point where we're like, they've traded like 5 or 6 actual gladiators, actual warriors for Navia, so hashtag Agron was right.
We've been vindicated.
Yes.
Now,
and
here,
at some point...
Before we go too far into this, I will say this is my major complaint with this episode. I love everything that's taking place in the House of Batiatus. I love the backstabbing and the machinations and the politics and everyone trying to one-up each other. That's all fantastic. Every one of these scenes, when it cuts back to Spartacus in the forest, trying to like outrun Marcus and the Romans, this just felt to me like nothing really happens at all to them other than they just die, right, in this normal thing. But there's no like arc, there's no learning anything. It's like they cut to this because they didn't feel like they could spend the entire episode in the House of Batiatus. And
that's right.
I felt it was just
absolutely
boring. I'm like,
have.
yes, I'm like, I don't give a shit what Spartacus is doing over here. I don't give a fuck. Just get him out of the forest. I hated it going back and forth like that.
You're skipping to the end, Matt. That's we're supposed to have this conversation at the end of the episode, Matt.
I know,
God
but I couldn't
damn it.
hold back. This is
But
the first time I was
Matt
like
is
kind of
so angry.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Join us next
Angron.
week for the next episode. Join us next week.
Well, I didn't say what happened in the House of Batiatus yet. There's plenty to talk about there. There's nothing to talk about with Spartacus. Spoiler, just to save Steve some time, Spartacus, they keep running in circles in this thing. Everyone starts dying, and then eventually they get saved at the end by Agron. Okay, let's focus on the House of Batiatus.
Cool. Yeah, cool. I don't have to talk about the Spartacus side of things. The only thing that I was going to say was that Nasir gets stabbed. He gets stabbed in the stomach, but because now he is a main character, he got one of those survivable stab wounds in the stomach that some people occasionally get in the episode.
That was funny when Navy is like, "Oh, Crixus had worse than this, and he was fine. Just put some fire on it. Just cauterize the wound, and you'll be fine."
Yeah, you seal the wound. It's a little known fact that internal bleeding hadn't been invented yet back in ancient Rome. And so if you just cover up the outside of the wound, it's totally fine. Anyways, Spartacus Spartacus is running through the forest for a long time and eventually gets saved by Agron. That's all you really need to know. Marcus gets killed by Asher because Asher's telling Marcus, like, dude, Spartacus is going to win. We gotta get the fuck out of here. And Marcus says no. Marcus wants to keep pressing the attack, and so Asher kills him basically to save himself. That's all you need to know about the Spartacus side of things.
Yep.
So back in the House of Batiatus, they are planning an orgy. Lucretia is talking about there's Sepia and Ilythia both want Verinius, and Lucretia is kind of stoking the flames on both sides of that.
Ilythia makes note that Verinius, because Verinius and Glaber are the same position in theory, they're both praetors, but Ilythia makes the point that he's going to be a consul, which is basically like co-head of Rome, essentially. So Ilythia is trying to hitch her wagon to the Verinius train, and we'll find out. Is he interested, Steve? We'll find out.
Yeah. So down in the plan for these captured gladiators is they're going to be killed at Vernius's games. Vernius is having games to distract the populace from the terribleness of Spartacus and Spartacus's forces. But the gladiators get put underground to wait for their imminent death, where they meet Oenomaus. And so this is the first time Crixus has seen Oenomaus in a long time. They have a heart-to-heart. And now Crixus is like, all that matters is that Navia is safe. I will gladly give my life for her. And Oenomaus is like, oh, that's fucking dumb.
Oenomaus is like,
so
fuck
many
women.
men fall to ruin.
Fuck women. Yeah. Women suck.
After learning the truth about Gannicus and Melita, Onomaus is very much a bros before hoes guy now. And so it's like the script is flipped, because like in early season 1, like Crixus, outside of wanting Navia, is like, I got no time for this. And Onomaus is the one who's all about honor, and he had previously had a wife, and so like they're kind of, their outlooks on love and women in general have kind of flip-flopped at this point. And so there's the big orgy. It's to honor Verenius, and they roll out the 4 slaves, and so you've got Onomaus and Crixus and Rascos and Redshirt, and there is disagreement about what's going to happen to these slaves, and Verenius and Glabber keep trying to one-up each other. They're both trying to get the glory. So Glabber's caught all these slaves, and Glabber wants to just kill them now. He wants to kill them at this private party, because since he caught them, he gets the glory. But everyone else is like, or Verenius is like, I'm going to have games. They're going to be executed in the arena, and if the execution happens in the arena, then Verenius gets the glory, because he is the one who's organized these games. And they keep going back and forth, and multiple people in this orgy are just egging on both of them. Sepius gets very upset, because apparently his cousin died during the night that Badiatus died, and so he wants to kill them now. He wants vengeance. And so Glabber and Verenius they meet in the middle. 3 of the gladiators will be saved for the arena, and then 1 gladiator will be just tortured to death inside.
I wonder which one.
Yes. Which of the 4? Remember, how does one choose which gladiator to be sacrificed? Remember all the amazing things that Onomaus has done, and Crixus is the undefeated Gaul, and Rascos is kind of like
he's kind of there.
He's got like a prominent. He's probably like the second lead of the Gauls under Crixus.
He's a named character from season 1.
And then Redshirt. Like, remember all of the battles in the arena that Redshirt has had. Redshirt gets picked. They do this big song and dance where they say, well, Xena, you are the one who has been most wronged in this house. You get to pick. And so Xena kind of like walks by them, holds her hand out like
duck,
she's
goose.
That's basically it. Eeny, meeny, miny,
kind of
Redshirt.
pretending that the gods are leading her to who the victim's going to be, and she stops on Crixus, and she's like, "Oh, the gods have spoken." Redshirt. And so the other 3 get kicked back downstairs, and everyone starts taking turns torturing Redshirt, and Verenius is very clear. It's like, no mortal wounds. Your cuts can only go skin deep. Basically, we want this to last a long time. We want everyone to have the chance to torture Redshirt. And so I think Sepius starts first, because he was the one who was really advocating for this besides Glabber. And so he cuts out Redshirt's tongue, and then I don't know, one of the other rich Roman characters whose name doesn't matter. He goes up and like cuts off dude's nipple, and everyone takes turns just cutting this guy. And then
it was that skeezy,
Yeah, it was the creep. It was like the creepy guy who
Casudius. Yeah. He's got like the most punchable
that creepy
face.
child touching motherfucker.
Yeah.
Casudius is fucking creepy. Like I hope this man required a lot of makeup and costuming to have this look, because if this is what he looks like all the time, I feel motherfucking sorry for him.
I'll point out
the creepiest creeper to ever creep.
Oh yeah, he's got the perfect evil Roman face. Like, you look at that like, oh man, that guy's awful. And I will say, even though this Redshirt, I didn't know his name, this was kind of like a disturbing sequence of events here. Just watching them like cut pieces of flesh off of this guy, and they're all laughing about it, and they're having a good old time. I felt bad for Redshirt. I wish I knew his name.
Like, he's like suspended in the air. It just looks every part of this looks like just awful and painful and disgusting.
If only they'd taken the slightest bit of effort to give him some form of character in the last few episodes.
Did we even see? Because I know at the end of last episode, I knew that Crixus and Rascos had been caught. Was this guy even in the last episode?
I don't think he
If
was.
I don't
Maybe in the
remember.
background. He might.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I
he
don't
might have been in the cart. Maybe.
He was a Crixus bro though, because when they get captured, they come in there and Crixus is like, "It should have just been me. Why are you guys here?" And that guy's like, "I roll with you, Crixus. You're my dog, man." So I mean, he was a fanboy of Crixus. That's why he was there. And
That's
he
what
paid the price.
That's what being a fanboy gets you, Matt. This is a painful lesson for
Worth
you
it.
that you will not
Worth it.
learn
Worth it.
about fanboyism in general. You won't learn the lesson. Steve and I will be fine. We're not going to go to the mines and defend, stupid stuff like Star Wars, and you will be hung and cut to bits.
Fair.
Anyways, let's go back to the fate of Redshirt. So, Sepia and Ilythia both want Verinius, and Xena has petitioned the gods on behalf of both Sepia and Ilythia, and so they're kind of battling now to see who's going to get Verinius, and Sepia is like really turning on the charm to try to get Verinius, and so now it's Sepia's turn to cut a little piece off a red shirt, and she gets up there, and Verinius is kind of like guiding her, and then she can't do it. She stops, and then Ilythia
Freaks out when he looks at her. He looked her in the eyes.
Yep, she starts crying. She can't do it, and Ilythia just walks up, grabs the sword, and just stabs Redshirt. It's like, that's how you fucking do it. And that really turns on Verinius because he like immediately loses interest in Sepia. So Sepia goes off to cry, and her brother Sepius is kind of creepy towards his sister. And
Kind
it's like,
of.
we're just gonna leave.
Kinda.
They've got kind of a.
He's putting on the Southern charm, guys.
Oh, yeah.
They were very much ahead of the curve of porn, of step porn, except for take the step part out of it. That's very much his thing is the incest browser.
If you take the step out of step porn, you just have porn, Ronan.
But step brother or step sister.
There
porn,
you go.
see.
There you go. Okay.
What are we talking about? Anyways, Sepius and Sepia leave, and Sepia has been thoroughly embarrassed by her inability to torture a man, which is apparently a really
Morals.
big turn off to Verinius.
Romans, am I right? Jesus.
Ilythia goes and pursues Verinius after all this, and Verinius is with some younger girls, and Ilythia makes note of this. It's like, eventually I'm going to catch you with a fucking toddler if you don't pull your jets here. And so they send the other girls away, and Ilythia and Verinius have a moment. There's a little finger banging going on, and Ilythia basically propositions him. It's like, hey, hypothetically, what if I wasn't married to Glabber anymore? And Verinius is like, hey, make that happen, and I'll be here to pick you up.
Well, he wants the money, right? Because Ilithia's dad is super rich. They have the name, and she's like, with your name and my dad's money, you'll be richer than Crassus. Because they name drop Crassus again in this episode. Verinius does, when he's like, oh yeah, Crassus, he's got a tiny cock, or whatever. So they've sprinkled Crassus's name out there multiple times in the series so far as the richest Roman out there. So yeah, he's gonna go after Ilythia, but she's also got a kid. She's got a kid.
So she has to be unencumbered if she wants to marry Verinius. So, but step one of that is getting her father's blessing, and her father is not having it. She's I don't know why Ilithia's dad is so against this. He doesn't like Glabber. You think he'd be all in, but
I think it's the social thing. It would
the
be
stigma of divorce.
Yeah, the stigma of that kind of thing would be like, what are you talking about? You have his kid growing inside you. I can't just, divorce you and that stuff. So, be socially unacceptable to him.
Yeah. So he's not into it. Ilythia is disappointed. But then Xena goes out to talk to. This is real stupid. All right, I'm gonna call this. Xena goes out to talk to Ilythia's dad, and Xena's like, "Oh, isn't it great that Ilythia is important to both of us? We have this bond over how much we love your daughter." And Ilythia's dad's like, "Grumble, grumble, grumble." And then Xena's like, "Well,
Accurate.
if you have concerns, why don't you come and spend some time with me, and I can share your concerns with the guys." They go off and fuck.
You will come. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Giggity.
They go off and fuck, and Ilythia catches them, and
Vagina of
she
the
is
gods.
pissed. And so she tells Xena, like, I know you're doing this to pull some shit. And Xena
She doesn't
finally
trust her.
Yeah, she doesn't. And Xena finally confesses, like, I remember everything. I have my memory back, and so Ilythia realizes, okay, she clearly remembers what happened to Lykinia, and so Ilythia is just like, fuck it, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And if anyone says anything, I'm going to tell people that you lost your senses and attacked me. And she starts choking out Xena, and Xena basically throws herself on the mercy of Ilythia and is like, I banged your dad to convince him to dissolve your marriage with Glaber. I love you, Ilythia. I want to go back. I wish I could undo all the terrible things. I want us to be friends again. And I used my magic Xena vagina to convince your dad to grant you a divorce.
It
And
is a magical
now,
vagina.
I'm sure it's wonderful, and she used it to great effect. And I think that's pretty much the end of the episode. Ilythia immediately is like, "Yes, I have everything is as it should be. You're back in your proper place beneath me." But she's all about this. Xena is back in Ilythia's good graces, and then also Spartacus meets Agron at the end of his forest adventure.
The red shirts that were with Spartacus, they also die.
Yeah, like I said, they're down a good 6 or 7 actual gladiators by the end of this episode, and so Agron was right.
There's also another interesting thing about that kind of annoyed me a little bit, where you see Marcus and Asher, and Asher says at the beginning, he's like, "Look, man, you're spread out. These are gladiators. They're gonna fuck you guys up." But over the course of things, I mean, the Romans are winning. They keep killing these guys, these gladiators. Yes, they're losing men, but they keep losing all these dudes. I'm just like, that didn't even narratively work for me, because I was expecting, I was like, well, yeah, let me see
I think
Spartacus wrecking shop. That's what I wanted to see happen, but it was like they were still getting wasted, whittled down, and it looked bleak, like nothing was going to happen. And then, yeah, I just didn't like any of the Spartacus stuff. I just didn't like it.
I was fine with it. Like, it could have been shortened up, but I was ultimately, it didn't bother me at all. I mean, Asher is the best part of all of those scenes. I think I was getting confused. Like, next episode is where Glaber really has had enough of Asher. But no, I was fine with the Spartacus stuff. Like, it should have been shorter. I mean, that's all I can say about it. Like, it didn't hurt the episode, but I would have easily taken 10 more minutes of House of Badiatus versus 10 more minutes of Woodland Adventure.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was so much more stuff they could have done. You could have had, like, even more scenes with, like, what Crixus and Oenomaus and all them are up to, and just more dialogue between them. Like I said, they haven't seen each other in forever, and just, I would have loved to have never left the House of Badiatus, but I don't think they could have done an episode of Spartacus without Spartacus in it, so they had to kind of throw that in there. I don't know, Ronan, what do you think of this episode?
That'd be like an episode of a show called Book of Boba Fett, where Boba Fett does nothing.
Very, very similar. Yeah. But what did you think of this episode overall, Ronan?
This is probably, I mean, my memory of the rest of the season is fuzzy, but this is definitely I'll say this is probably the weakest episode of this season. I was very, watching it the whole time, I was very, Because yeah, it's like what you guys were saying. The stuff in the woods just isn't that interesting, and like the political stuff, like the whole senators and stuff doing this thing that they do. I don't like I can't say I'm quite as positive about it as you are. I didn't find it nearly nothing that was happening this episode really hooked me. So the whole time I was just kind of like, mostly ignoring it. It's kind of like whatever, whatever. Yeah. So I'm gonna give this episode a solid meh out of meh.
I think that's fair, and I think I had sort of mentioned, Steve, before we started recording that I feel like this episode is probably the one that I felt was the weakest as well. Even though I loved all of the stuff that was going on in the House of Badiatus, there was just something about it where I was just kind of like, is any of this stuff, as exciting as what we've seen before, or as gripping and engaging as we saw before? I don't necessarily think so, even though there was some cool stuff in it. So I'm kind of on your level, Ronan, but probably a little bit more enthusiastic about the stuff in the House of Badiatus. How about you, Steve? What are your overall opinions of this ep?
It's fine. I mean, I if you say it's the weakest of the season so far, like, no arguments from me. But I also didn't think it was a bad episode. Like, tighten up the Spartacus stuff a little bit, give the Glaber and Ilythia and Vernius a little more time to breathe, and I think it would have worked out better. Red Shirt's name is Acker or Acer, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I looked it up.
Okay. Well, I'll take a drink of scotch for Acker, because he was a real bro. He went through some shit.
That torture scene, because I remember you said it kind of bothered me. I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that sucks. Oh yeah, they cut his tongue out. Oh, that's rough. But it didn't connect because I have no connection to that character. Had they done a little, just a smidgen of character, like if it had been the axe guy, we don't know, we call him axe guy. He's got no personality outside of he carries an axe. Yeah, he carries an axe. That's his personality, and he had one good line in the first episode. You had to be at whores. Like, if you had done just that slight amount with this guy, I probably would have cared more. I was like, oh, man, that sucks. He was kind of cool. Because I would have had some connection to him. I had nothing with this guy, so I didn't really give a fuck. It's like, whatever.
Do you think it would have been more impactful for them to have selected Raskos for that? Like, I feel like if they would have, because, spoiler alert, Raskos doesn't make it. But if Xena would have picked him, and we would have seen, because we have had that kind of build up with him, I think that would have made it, number one, far more sort of subversive, because of course as soon as you saw Acker, as soon as you saw Acker, you're like, okay, yeah, he's the one that's going to die. They're not going to kill Crixus, obviously. They're not going to kill Animaeus. But I could see them going for Raskos. So if they had done that, would that have improved all of that for you?
Would have been better. Because again, I'm still not really. I wasn't really sold on anything happening in the episode. But had it been, let's suppose hypothetically speaking, they had chose Raskos, or even really edgy, they picked Animaeus. So which that would have never happened. But if they had, it would be like, what the oh my god, that would have been very, very different. But no, it's a red shirt. Who cares?
Yeah, I guess I just. I look at torture and I feel something in my soul, and you don't. That's fair.
I mean, clearly they should have tortured Crixus and then just have an excuse at the end for why they can't just outright kill him. Like, that would have been some fucking impact.
Oh yeah, that would have been a really good story plot. Or she actually picks him and he's being just totally tortured.
And then they just they actually stick to the only skin deep, no mortal wounds thing.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when they're about to kill him, plot reasons, they can't go through with it.
Well, I think it'd been cool. Where what about this? I mean, now we're just workshopping this,
Slave
but
one to canon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're doing our headcanon here. What if they would have got Crixus, tortured the shit out of Crixus, but only to make it so that he could barely fight in the arena. So it was almost like guaranteed he was going to get this embarrassing, terrible death. and then like he has to go out just completely, basically butchered, attempting to be the badass that he is. That would have been cool.
that would
have
have
been awesome.
There were a lot of things they could have done. They chose none.
That's true.
I'm looking at the wiki, and according to the wiki, Acker or Ace or whatever his name is, like, was in the previous episodes of Seaton Vengeance. He wasn't in Blood and Sand, but I sure as fuck don't remember him.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay.
He was just kind of there as a background character, I guess.
Well, he was there as a Crixus fanboy, just in the background. We'll probably go back and look at those episodes, and he's in the background, like,
He was
giggling.
He was
and like,
there to take one for the team.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so this doesn't really necessarily fit in with any of the stuff, but this is like a weird historical note from the book. So they make this divide amongst the gladiators, like in the TV show, they make this divide where it's like, okay, the Germans, which would be Agron, and there will be more coming up, and the Gauls, there's this big kind of divide against them, but historically speaking, the Germans and the Gauls were more or less the same people. So Germans and Gauls kind of stuck together in the Spartacus War, and it was Spartacus along with all the other Thracians, because the show just seems to make it out like Spartacus is the only Thracian that seems to exist. When no, there were a fuck ton of Thracians at the Ludus, historically speaking. That's a weird little note where it's like there are dozens of German characters, all the Gallic characters, you even get Celtic characters, Mechanicus. Only one fucking Thracian. Apparently Romans just, within this universe are just like, no, we can't use them. They have to be killed on sight.
What the fuck is going on with this hand of poker? Fold!
I threw in 2,000, and it started getting bigger after that. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to another episode of Jupiter's Crock. We'll be back next Friday with a look at what I would only imagine is an episode that really made Ronan happy. That's what I got out of the next episode. I was like, Ronan's probably going to be very, very happy.
Oh, God. Well, we can't leave until we see what happens with his hand. Matt's throwing his dick on the table.
Yes, I'm putting my Crixus-sized dick onto the table right now in poker, so please, put your browser back over onto the Outpost Unknown Jupiter's Crock tab here, and watch me as I dominate
Lose 14,000 chips.
Are you guys both out?
Yeah,
I'm out.
Yeah,
oh yeah, I got a full house. I got 3 6s and 2 7s.
I had a queen. I had a queen and a 5. I was tempted to stick in, but I was like,
Look
no,
at all this
no.
money I'm about to win. Oh, he's got 6s too. That's okay.
No,
I'm
that
still.
doesn't
I'm
mean
still.
it's you.
Yeah. Oh, that guy's got
Thank
3
you.
7s. That guy's got 3 7s. No!
No! Oh, he won on the river too!
Oh no!
I also would have gone all in on that.
Oh God! Well, that's what happens
Won it on
when
the river.
when
Thank
I
you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Join us next week, where we are most assuredly to have a better episode.
At least Navy is safe.